Despite the Game 2 loss 3-1 to the Washington Capitals, the Carolina Hurricanes are coming back home with the series split 1-1. All that being said is there is no reason to panic with these Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkers, also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a Friday episode for you guys as we get to talk about why there is no reason to panic when it comes to the Hurricanes, even with the series tied 1-1, coming back to Raleigh for games 3 and 4. Also talk about why Seth Jarvis will have a huge game 3 and why I believe that he's right now just a sleeping giant ready to take off for the Canes in this series. And speaking about things that are going well for the Canes, well, the special teams, even with their PK streak snapped, they are still playing really well, and the power play is still chugging along as well. But before we jump into everything that is in the Friday episode of Locked On Hurricanes, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Now, looking at the Canes, yes, they lost 3-1 in Game 2 against the Washington Capitals. The third goal was an empty netter. So in reality, if you're talking, normal gameplay, it was a 2-1 game outside of that. But overall, on the sheet, it's 3-1. Overall, it was just a game where you definitely tell it was two different things for the Hurricanes because they outshot the Capitals 7-5 in the first, 17-7 in the third. Didn't really have a great second pair. They got shot 9-4. But if you look at the game overall, I mean, one half of the face-offs out at the Capitals again, 17-16. But it was the block shots once again that kind of really, took it out of the Hurricanes once again. Capitals had 33 block shots. They had, 32 the other night as well. So the Capitals have blocked a lot of shots. I think that's just kind of what's been hurting the Hurricanes a little bit is the fact that it's just they're hot. They're shooting at a lot. It's just unfortunate a lot of them are not going towards the net. If you can't put pucks on net, good things just won't happen. But overall, I mean, it's a game where it's unfortunate how there just was no puck luck for the Canes. Hit the post and crossbar once again. They lead the AHL playoffs with 14 of those already. And it's just one of those things where the Hurricanes were just so close to scoring multiple times. It just didn't work out because Logan Thompson was being Logan Thompson. I mean, you look at the first period, Hurricanes are out shooting the Capitals. They had a couple chances, didn't go their way. Second period, they got down. Same thing as game 1, down 1-0 after, 2 periods. Capitals score the first goal of the game on not a lot of shots. Hurricanes definitely were not playing their best game. We only get 4 in 1 period. Just nothing you can do about that. Then the third, they were just shooting at will. Unfortunately, they got down, and it was John Carlson, snapping the Hurricanes' penalty kill streak. Now they're 19 for 20, but hey, it's still really, really good. You're still talking 95%. We'll talk more about that later. But for me, there's no panic. There's no reason to panic for the Hurricanes because you even see it from the guys too. You look at what Sean Walker says on the positives going into game 3 and 4 back at home. I think the positive we could take away is that when we are playing our game, we really controlled the momentum of the game. We had a lot more time in their zone, created a lot more for sure. We'll look at it tomorrow. I think we know we got away from our game there a little bit, and they capitalized and took away from our momentum. We'll look at it and move on. And yeah, I mean, that's all you can really say about that is you could definitely tell the Hurricanes weren't really playing their game like you saw in game 1. Game 2 is kind of like you saw it early. Second period wasn't really there. Then you kind of saw them take over in the third, but by then you're down 2-0. Logan Thompson's basically stopping everything you're throwing at him. And in the end, you give him empty netter to Tom Wilson. and you split the series in Washington. But that's the thing, though, too, is you need to win on the road. You need your power play to go on. Because I've been saying that, you guys have been hearing me say it for the whole back half of the regular season and mostly through the playoffs is as long as you're winning on the road, as long as your special teams is going, you're going to be fine. And the Hurricanes did split the first two games in Washington. So you have to be at least happy about that. For at least you got the split. You come home, series is tied 1-1. Now you look to capitalize on a home ice advantage with the Caniacs in the barn, and that goes into what Jordan Stahl said on returning to Raleigh after splitting the first two games. Always nice to be in front of our fans. We're going to have to take that momentum back and use our fans to do it. We'd love to be up by 2, but that's a good team, and we're going to have to start fresh at home here and take it to them again. And yeah, I mean, the captain's right. It's just, it is what it is. You would love to be up 2-0. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. Series is tied, but now you come home to the Caniacs. You hopefully kind of use that to your advantage. And that's why I think for me, it's like, yeah, you scored 3 goals in 2 games, but they've all been close. Frederick Anderson's been playing out of his mind. He's only given up, 3 goals himself in the 2 games so far this series. He's playing great hockey, over 900 save percentage once again. But that's why I think, for me, there's no reason to panic. You got the split. You've been playing, mostly well. Yeah, you got away from your game a little bit, but the Hurricanes know how to win games, especially at home. So you just, kind of look at game 2, know what you did right, know what you did wrong. Forget about that one. You move on to the next one because for me, momentum doesn't really carry from game to game. This is just how can you be ready for this one? And that's the thing that's going to be the Hurricanes need to focus on is, yeah, you didn't really play a great game 2. You didn't play 60 minutes of Hurricanes hockey. You were kind of in it, had a claw back. You were almost there. Didn't really work out. But if you go back to what you did in game 1, where, yeah, you were down after 2 periods, but you were, controlling the tempo. You were controlling the pace, controlling what was going on. I mean, you had over double of the offensive zone time against the Capitals. I think that's what the Hurricanes need to go back to is quality shots all over the ice, get bodies in front of the net, do what they need to do. And I think that's where you can kind of see them come back and do their own thing. And that's why, should fans be worried? No, I don't think you really should be worried. The series is split. You got the road win. That's what you need. And now you come home. And if you take both games in Carolina, well, that's great. Now you're up 3-1, going back to Washington for game 5, and you go from there. At the worst, you split in Carolina, which is something you don't really want to do either because you want to be able to take that home ice advantage and roll with. And the Hurricanes so far, knock on wood, are, they've won all their home games so far in the playoffs. So now if you take that momentum, do what you did in round 1, you come into games 3 and 4, you take care of business on Saturday, you take care of business on Monday, then you're looking at, okay, here's game 5, you're back up 3-1 again. So, yeah, even though the series is split, the Hurricanes, for me, are still a team that's deep enough that you give them enough time, you give them more opportunities to put pucks on net and have that breakout, take control, 60 minutes of Hurricanes hockey we saw in round 1 against the Devils. If they can pull that off against the Capitals, I think there's no reason why you don't see them taking game 3 on Saturday and game 4 on Monday. So it's just, like I said, momentum doesn't build from game to game, but if you start early and play your game for 60 minutes, I think that does go a long way because then the pressure starts. It's not momentum that carries from game to game, but I think it's pressure because you're adding more pressure onto your opponent. So if the Hurricanes can do that in game 3, you retake the 2-1 series lead. And then you put the pressure on the Capitals. Did they have to split in Carolina in game 4? And if you take game 4 as well, then all the pressure's on Washington going to game 5 because now you're up 3-1 in the series. So at least the Hurricanes aren't down 2-0. If they were down 2-0 going back to Carolina, then yeah, this is a different conversation. But since they split, taking game 1 the way they did, game was really close in game 2. The score doesn't indicate what the game was. It was very close. They came back to make it 2-1 after going down 2-0, and they let an empty netter in. Overall, the games have been pretty close. The Hurricanes haven't good on the special teams, and I think it's just the fact that they've been so close. It's just Thompson's been playing really great. I mean, you got to give the Capitals some credit. Thompson's been playing well. They made it tough for the Hurricanes in game 2, and now the whole series is split, and we go back to Carolina and see what happens then. But for me, if there's one guy who I think is really going to break out in Game 3, who's been kind of a sleeping giant so far, especially in this series, is Seth Jarvis. And if you stick around, we'll talk more about him here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your pair controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA College Sports Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Avowed, Angel 25, whatever you play, you can do that as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Plus Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including the Fire TV Stick 4K, which is second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, which is first and second gen, and the Fire TV Cube, which is the third gen. You just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed sponsored job puts your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Well, Indeed is all you need. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. And like I said at the end of segment 1, if there's someone who I can think that's really going to show out in Game 3, that is Seth Jarvis. And for me, he's definitely the sleeping giant of this series because you look at how he did in Game 2 against the Capitals. He did get the primary assist on the Shane Gostisbehere goal on the power play. Of course, it was his shot that went off of Thompson, went right to Gostisbehere, was able to put the puck home. But in Game 3, he had 3 hits, 2 shots, took 20 shifts, and played 16 minutes and 26 seconds, but was a -1 in the game. But the thing for me is you're looking at Seth Jarvis, who in the last 5 games in the playoffs for the Hurricanes, how about 1 goal and 4 assists? And, of course, 2 of them being in that Game 5 win against the New Jersey Devils. But so far these playoffs, how about 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points? And he has 5 power play points already. That's the most in his career when it comes to the playoffs. And he's shooting at 12.5%, which is really, really good, too. So, I mean, if you look at a guy like Seth Jarvis, who's also time on ice per game, 21 minutes and 23 seconds, there's a lot of already career best for Seth. Like, he's already 1 assist away from tying his playoff high, which is 5. He's already 4 points shy of the 10 that he did back in 22-23, where he played in 15 games. He's almost a point-per-game player in the playoffs already this season. I think that's where you look at where he was in the regular season, where, tied his point total from last year, and that's with missing 7 games and resting the last couple. He easily could have set a new career high in points. He could have easily almost beaten his goal record, his goal total as well, but he set a new career high in assists at 35, led the team with 32 goals, and I get where Rod is putting him on the third line because he wants to have scorers over the lineup. He knows that line of Jarvis with the Jordans works really well, but I think with right where we're at right now with this series, it's almost kind of like you want to have Carey on that third line more than anything else with the Jordans, because you really want that, with the way the Capitals are playing there, you want to have some, bodies, across the lineup too, along with their scoring lines too. Does that mean you move, Jackson Blake down to the fourth line to be with, if it's a Roslovic or, if Jankowski comes back and then Eric Robbins, that wouldn't be a bad option either. With the way Blake's been playing, he's been good too, but I think if you're looking for a guy who really needs to see more minutes outside of the power play and the 5-on-5, I think that's definitely Seth Jarvis, because you look at Aho and Svechnikov, almost 19, 20 minutes apiece for those guys, but then Jarvis is playing 16 and some change in game 2. Even that's with playing, on 3 power play, chances. For me, it's like you look at Jarvis is your best guy this season, especially with the goals. Yeah, maybe it was, not where Aho was in points, but I think, with Seth missing some games due to his shoulder re-aggravation and just the way, he was voted as the team MVP by the Carolina chapter of the Professional Hockey Writers Association for a reason. He had an all-around great season, even while missing games. So I think for me, it's like, I understand where Rod's coming from. You need, big bodies on every line. You need scorers on every line. And that's a good thing to have, but especially in a series that's this close, it's almost like, you have to have Jarvis more on that first line. You got to give him almost those 19 minutes. Like, he's already averaging over 21 minutes in the playoffs, but he's only getting 16 and some change in game 2. You're not really utilizing him more than you need to, especially with the way it's like he's your best player. He's your best goal scorer this season. Like, he should be getting more opportunities. And like I said, I understand where Rod is trying to, balance the lines out because he wants to roll 4 lines, which is fine. But if you're seeing where it's like, okay, the first line's playing okay, but, who's that guy who could take that line to the next level? That's Jarvis, because Jarvis is a spark plug on all the lines that he's on. And I think that's the guy that is hey, we need to get this line going, throw Seth on there, because he's just a guy who's consistently on the puck. He's always present in every single game. Like, he had a good number of chances in game 1 to score and win the game for the Kings. And even in game 2, he had a lot of good chances as well. So I think if you're looking for someone who, that you kind of need to lean on more, especially in this series, I think that's Jarvis. And like, nothing against Svech, nothing against Aho. Svechnikov hit the post a lot in game 1, a couple times in game 2. But if you're looking for a guy who needs to shoot the puck and not, be hesitant or having to look for the extra pass, I think that's Jarvis, because you saw it in game 2 where he was trying to do the extra pass because it's kind of like, okay, well, we need to get guys going, what we need to do here or figure something out. But if you let him just go to that top line, be like, hey, don't worry about making the extra pass, just shoot the puck. I think he would do that. And nothing against Aho and those guys, but if you're looking for someone who's not afraid to go green light and just shoot at will, that's Seth. Like, he was tied for 4th on the entire team with 2 shots on goal, and that's after Gostisbehere had 6 and Walker had 4 and Orlov had 3. But if you give Seth Jarvis enough opportunities, he could easily shoot the lights out and go 4 or 5, maybe 6 shots a game. And that's with more ice time too. Like, for me, it's like, I just don't understand why your best player on the team is playing less than 17 minutes when you have your other guys playing 19, almost 20 minutes a game. And you're kind of like, well, if you look at the numbers and look what the guys who, chances for and chances against and all the shot opportunities, Seth is that guy. And I think that's where you look at him being a huge component for a game 3. That's why I think he's the sleeping giant and the sleeping X factor of the series. Yeah, he's already been, he's got points already in this series against the Capitals, but you look where he's at in the playoffs so far, 6 points in 7 games, and he already has 5 power play points. That's a guy who I think could easily take a series, turn on its head, and take control of it. So I'm hoping in game 3, I think we're definitely going to see some different lines, especially after you only see 3 goals in 2 games. I would consider, seeing some line changes, and hopefully Seth is back on that top line because he has that chemistry with Aho. Maybe you throw him up there. Maybe, do you keep Blake up there? Do you move Svechnikov? It's just, you got to figure out there's something they could do to kind of switch it up a little bit. And I think that's where you look at Jarvis and be like, hey, we really want to get Aho and those guys rolling again. And I think Seth is that guy because he's, that chemistry has with Aho has been working. He's your best scorer. He's your best all-around guy, this season. I think that's where Jarvis will be a big key in game 3. Now, what has been a big key for the Hurricanes as of late is the special teams. Despite getting their streak snapped, the PK was still pretty good, and the power play is still doing pretty decent as well. So stick around, and we'll talk more about the special teams here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and more so the NHL playoffs, and every night delivers a highlight-worthy performance, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. New to FanDuel? It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked on Hurricanes, your team every day. And like I said at the end of segment 2, what has been kind of a big key for the Hurricanes in this series and more so the playoffs? Well, it's their special teams. Unfortunately, their perfect streak got snapped thanks to John Carlson. But overall, they're still 19 of 20 on the PK. And when you look at the number totals of that, how it's going for the Hurricanes, well, they still carry a 95%, which is still the best by far. The next best are the Panthers and the Stars, who are at 88.5. So you're still talking well over 6.5% better. Then if you look at the net PK, well, the Hurricanes are still technically 100%, which is better than the Vegas Golden Knights' 93.3 because of the shorthanded goal that they got from Jordan Martineau. But overall, the PK has still been playing very, very well for the Hurricanes despite giving up that one goal. I mean, it is what it is, but you really can't be upset if you're the Hurricanes looking at a 95% penalty kill clip where you're going 19 for 20. You'll gladly take that. I know Tim Gleason's loved that too from his guys. Yeah, it stinks, but I mean, you can't expect the team to go perfect. It had to end eventually, but you're still 19 for 20. You can still hang your hat on the fact that you're still playing very good on the PK. Power play, hey, the Hurricanes scored. You love to see it. 1 for 3, 33%. Didn't get any in game 1. Got in this one, and now they're tied with the Toronto Maple Leafs for the 7th best power play in the playoffs right now at 28%. And the two teams that are ahead of them, well, they're already out of the playoffs, and the Kings and the Canadians. So technically, if you look at the Hurricanes, they're tied for 5th, essentially, with the Leafs. And the only ones that, a little bit ahead of them are the Panthers and the Golden Knights are at 28.6. Everyone else, like Stars, Oilers, are in the 30s. But if you're the Hurricanes, you're still playing very well in the power play. Like I said, despite going over in game 1. Game 2, the first couple were kind of, they were okay, not the greatest. But hey, you got one with Shane Gostisbehere, right place, right time, absolutely just rips the puck on that, rebound after the Seth Jarvis shot that went off of Thompson. But overall, I mean, the power play has been playing well, and you got, like I said, cliche, hey, it's got to get rolling, just like winning on the road. You got to get your power play to be doing their thing, and they have. You can't deny that they have. Because you're looking at a team who's 28% of the power play. Definitely good if you're the Hurricanes when you kind of went 3 for not that great in the regular season since January, but you've scored some in the playoffs. And it's one of those things where, in the previous 6 playoffs, you're talking 14.5% on the power play. Not great. Not the greatest. You really don't want to be that low. But hey, you're 28%. You're already doubled your best from the last 6 playoffs. Hey, you're doing well. You're doing something. Just give us some progress. That's all we ask for. But on the PK, I mean, since Rod Brindamore took over and Tim Gleason's been his penalty kill coach and all that, the Hurricanes penalty kill has been top 2 in the league every single season for the last 7 years. And now you see where they're at now, 95% on the penalty kill, or the power kill, as I like to call it. But your net PK is 100% because you're doing the right things. You're doing the job. And the fact that you're shutting down the Capitals, who didn't really have a good power play in the first round against the Canadians, and that was their first one of the series against Carolina. So, I mean, if you really look at it, you're still 19 for 20 overall. So you're 4 for 5 in the series in 2 games. That's still really good, all things considered. You went 15 for 15 in the first round. And now you're 4 for 5 in round 2 after 2 games in Washington. that's not a bad thing to have if you're Carolina. So as long as that still stays rolling, and like I said, if you still limit the opportunities, you'll be fine. I mean, yeah, they gave up, I said you want to try to have 2 or less. They gave the Capitals 3. Some of the calls are kind of soft, but they were kind of soft on both sides, let's be honest. Not advocating that, the Hurricanes got, in trouble by the refs. I would say even the Capitals got some really soft calls against them too. The refereeing in the entire playoffs has been very, very weird. Like, they won't call the big things, but they'll call the small ticky-tacky type things. So I will give the Capitals some credit. They've also been hosed on some calls, just like Carolina has. So it's kind of going both ways, where it's like, why are you calling these really soft tick-tacky calls, but kind of like the bigger things is not really getting called on. But hey, what can you do? Welcome to the playoffs. Penalties are weird. Throw the rule book out, and you're just kind of guessing at this point. But unfortunately, the Hurricanes got, they had 3, they had to kill off 3 penalties. I said you want to try to have 2 or less. Unfortunately, one of them did finally bite them in the backside, one time. And now you're 19 for 20 in the playoffs, and you're 4 for 5 in the series. But like I said, hey, you can't go 100%. It's just tough. It's impossible, especially in the NHL these days. I would never really expect to have a perfect penalty kill unit go through the playoffs, because there's a lot of great teams in the postseason. It's kind of tough to shut a team down for that long. And if you're going over 4 different rounds, it's just not a feasible thing to do. But overall, you really can't, like I said, you really can't be upset. You got the number 1 penalty kill unit so far in the playoffs in terms of just regular PK and the net PK. Power play, hey, you're top 7. You're tied for 7th, technically 5th if you're talking about teams who are still alive right now in the second round. If you take out the Kings and the Canadians, the Hurricanes are tied for 5th on the power play with the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's still pretty good if you really consider looking at it that way. So, I mean, as long as the Hurricanes, and I've been saying this, I don't expect them to score on the power play every single game. It's tough to do that. That's why you don't see a lot of teams score that much, unless you're like Edmonton, when you have, Draisaitl and McDavid that are just unreal, or how the Maple Leafs were very early in round 1 against the Senators, where it's Matthews and Nylander and Marner and Tavares, and those guys are going absolutely off. I understand that. But for the Canes, after struggling since January on their power play, just getting 3 power play goals from January until the postseason, that's tough. That is a tough look. But now you're already up to 5 or 6 already. That's pretty good for the playoffs if you consider you've already doubled your total that we saw from January to the start of the playoffs in April, and you're up to 6 already. That's pretty good if you're Carolina. So you look at it as, hey, you're playing with house money. You're at 28%. Like I said, if you at least go every other game with scoring a power play goal, you're going to be in a good spot. So I think where you look at it for the Hurricanes, kind of leading back to point 1, is there's no reason to panic if you're Hurricanes fans, because your special teams are still playing very good. Like I said, you're 95% on the regular PK, 100% on the net, and you're 28% on the power play. You want to have those good numbers if you want to continue to advance on in the playoffs. And you won another road game. That was the big question coming in too. The Hurricanes went 16-20-4, or whatever, some crazy number that it was, 16-21-4, or wherever that stat was on the road. Wasn't the greatest, but you've won 2 road games already in the first 2 rounds. That's really good. That means you can actually do it on the road. You're not having to struggle. You split New Jersey for games 3 and 4. You won the series in 5. You split games 1 and 2 in Washington. Now you come back to Carolina for 3 and 4. If you at least take both of those, well, now you're up 3-1 going back to Washington. So now it's just using that home ice advantage to what you can do. But at least, hey, your special teams is rolling, doing what they need to do, and you've won on the road. Those are the 2 big things for the Hurricanes. So that's why overall, what the tone for this episode is, there is no reason to panic if for the Hurricanes or the fans. So going into Game 3 on Saturday, I have full faith that the Hurricanes will win that game and retake the series lead. But guys, that will be a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for listening today. If you want to check out Locked On NHL Game Night, every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned, get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is L_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin, where I do have my link trees in my bios, where you can check out all my written content at thehockeywriters.com. If you want to check out my other podcasts, well, it's the Searchcast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For Locked On Hurricanes, well, you can find it on all platforms: Apple, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, wherever you listen. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Make sure to follow and subscribe, because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share it with all other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.